if God didn't choose you, you don't want it. No matter how good it looks. Hear me on this, because it's a very powerful point. If God did not choose it, you don't want it. No matter how good, Tony, it looks. See, there's something about this story that you all are at a disadvantage of. Y'all know that the place Lot chose was Sodom and Gomorrah. You know that the place got destroyed, and so you read this story and you say, man, how could Lot be so foolish? But in order to understand what faced Lot, you've got to see this situation from Lot's standpoint. Before I tell you what was wrong with Sodom, I need you to understand what was right with Sodom and Gomorrah. Notice what the Bible says. The Bible says that when Lot lifted up his eyes, look at verse 10. Lot lifted up his eyes, and he beheld all of the plain of Jordan, that it was well watered everywhere, before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, of course. Look at the next piece. Even as the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt. There are two pieces of information there that you're given here. Number one, it says when Lot looked at Sodom and Gomorrah, he says it looked just like Eden. Lot remembered great-great-great-great-grandfather Adam talked about how beautiful the Garden of Eden was, and how it just had fruit everywhere. And when Lot looks at Sodom and Gomorrah, the cities of the plain, he says, this looks just like what great-great-grandpa told me about. It looked good. Furthermore, it says that it also looked like Egypt. Watch this. Egypt was the place that God had sent Abram to in the middle of famine. Egypt was the place that God sent Abram to in order for him not to suffer. And so what Lot is saying is, not only does it look like a creation of God, but it also looks like the last place that God sent me for my deliverance. The cities of the plain looked good. The cities of the plain were ready to produce immediately. He was a herdsman. He was a cattleman. This was a business decision. This was his company that he was trying to run, and he found the best place. It looked like something that was a creation of God. It looks like God's deliverance, and it was ready to produce immediately. And Lot said, how can I lose by choosing this place? Sodom and Gomorrah, hear me on this, was the closest you can come to a sure thing. Huh? I know you're saying, well, wait a minute now. Sodom and Gomorrah, come on. It looked like a winner. Furthermore, when Abram presented the land, Abram never said, Lot, this land is bad and this land is good. Choose this land. Abram said, it's all good. He said, the whole land is before you. He gave Lot no warnings. He said, listen, if you go left, I'll go right. And if you go right, I'll go left. Even Abram seemed to be suggesting to Lot that, man, you can't go wrong. Just close your eyes and throw a rock, and wherever you go is going to be a blessing to you. God has blessed us in famine. God has blessed us as we have gone from dry place to dry place. And now we're in a place of plenty. Man, just make a decision. Abram gave Lot no warning. there's no indication that he was about to mess up. It looked good. And that's what I'm saying, that many of the decisions that we make in life, it seems to be a decision between multiple good options. Yeah. The decision that Lot faced, Sister Barton, was almost like whether to choose the Cadillac or the BMW, you know. Whether to choose the mansion by the ocean or the mansion with the mountaintop view. Yeah. Whether to choose the pretty Christian lady from South Jackson Church or whether to choose the lovely one from Meridian in Ephesus. Both look very good. How can I go wrong? That's the choice that Lot faces. And I need you to understand the choice that Lot made, the choice that was before him, and so that you can understand the challenge that we face as well. That's what was right with Sodom. So you ask, well, preacher, what was wrong with Sodom? You say, well, the text says that Sodom was evil. Yeah, but how could Lot really have known that beforehand? The Bible is telling the story, and we know how the story goes, and it gives us indications. But there's not a lot of evidence that Lot could have seen that. I want to suggest, and you've got to get this, that there was one problem with Sodom, one problem with it that made it an unacceptable choice, for Lot. You want to know what it is? Oh, don't nobody want to know on this side, do y'all want to know what it is? Turn back to chapter 12. Everything y'all thought was wrong with Canaan, I'm suggesting that he couldn't have known that stuff. But there was one problem with Sodom and Gomorrah. Let me just say this right here. In fact, even before I tell you what the problem was. Because y'all say, well, Abram's choice looked good. Of course we know Abram made the right choice. But notice, even where Abram chose to live, in verse 7 at the end, in the place where Abram lived, the Bible says that the Canaanite and the Perizzite dwelled in the land. Those are the enemies of God. Where Abram was, there were the enemies of God there. It's not clear which one was the right one. But chapter 12, let me tell you the one thing that was wrong with Sodom. The one thing that was wrong with Sodom. Chapter 12. In fact, I need you to go back to verse 5. And Abram took Sarah, his wife, and Lot, his brother's son, and all their substance that they had gathered, and the souls that they had gotten in Haran. And they went forth into the land of where? Canaan. And into the land of Canaan they what? They came. And Abram passed through the land into the place of Sichem, and unto the plain of Moreh. And the Canaanite were in the land. See, that's not good. Verse 7. And the Lord appeared unto Abram and said, unto thy seed will I give what? This land. And there he builded an altar to the Lord who appeared unto him. Yeah. Yeah. You just saw it. You didn't know that you just saw it. The one problem with Canaan is that, the one problem with the cities of the plain, Sodom and Gomorrah, hear me on this, is that Sodom and Gomorrah lied outside of the promise of God. Abram was told by God, you go to Canaan, and it is at Canaan that my blessing is. It is in Canaan that I'm going to multiply your seed. It is in Canaan that I will make your people a mighty people. God's blessing and God's promise was in Canaan. But when you look at what's going on in the language here, the Bible is making a distinction between Canaan and the land of the plains. The one problem, you can't say it was because Sodom and Gomorrah didn't look good, because they did look good. You cannot say it was not because Sodom and Gomorrah wasn't going to bless his business and bless his house, because it did. Sodom and Gomorrah looked like the Eden. Sodom and Gomorrah looked like the last place that God had sent deliverance. But God said that my blessing is in Canaan, and everything that's outside of what God has called blessed is unacceptable for the people of God. It was outside of the promises of God. Lot could have said, I ain't found out one Bible text that says do not go to Sodom. If he said that, he would have been correct. But there were plenty of statements by God that says that my blessing is over here. And if God says my blessing is in the river, then you have no business on the bank. Huh? God don't have to tell you everything not to do. If he tells you where he's blessing, and then you need to understand that everything else is not what you want. And later in the story, you begin to find out that there was a lot of stuff happening in Canaan in Sodom and Gomorrah that was outside of the promises of God. And the stuff that Lot found there in Sodom and Gomorrah is the same stuff that society now is dredging back up and offering back up and saying this thing is good, this thing is wonderful, this thing is of the promises of God, when it's outside of the promises.